Okay, so next reading is taxes and private wealth management in global context, and most of this reading will be focused on taxes. That how do you deal with different types of taxes? How do you account for different types of taxes? So it starts with giving you an overview of global income tax structures. So with respect to taxes, there can be three types of tax revenues to government: taxes on income, taxes on wealth, and taxes on consumption. Taxes on income can be your taxes on salaries, interest, or dividend, that are your kind of income taxes, or can be capital gains tax, that is when you sell an asset, you have a gain and you pay a tax on it. So this can be percentage of income, or these can be percentage of capital gains or profits that you are making on sale. There can be wealth-based taxes, that are taxes on holding property or transferring property or wealth. There can be taxes on consumption, that is sales tax and value-added tax. So these types of taxes will be applied on sales, and these type of taxes, wealth-based tax, will be applied on asset price. So remember the baseline for the tax, that what is the base amount on which tax is being applied. Moving on, reading gives you some so for moving on, tax regimes can vary from country to country. There can be different types of tax structures in one country and can be a completely different type in another country. But there are some common elements as well, or some common terminologies used. And among those common elements or common terminologies are flat rate and progressive rate. So a tax structure can be a flat rate structure or can be a progressive tax rate structure with respect to income. Flat tax means that whatever your income is, a flat percentage is applied onto that. Progressive means that tax rate also depends on your income. So let's say, for example, if you have 15,000 of up to 15,000 of income, your tax rate is 23%. If you have 28,000 of income, then on first 15,000 you have 23%, and on the remaining amount you have 27%. If you have tax up to 55,000, then 27% on 28,000 and 38% on remaining amount. This is known as a progressive tax structure, in which tax rate progresses as your income amount increases. Or flat rate would be a simple percentage applied on the total amount. So you should be able to calculate tax based on progressive structure if you are given this table. Moving on, other key points to note with respect to common elements in taxes are that many countries provide special tax provisions for interest income. What are special tax provisions for interest income? That is, maybe there are some exemptions for certain type of interest income. That if you earn that particular type of interest income, you are exempted from tax. Or maybe there are some favorable tax rate on interest income. That is, tax rate on interest income may be lower than ordinary income tax rate. So when you are analyzing investment, when you are analyzing, when you are making a portfolio, these are the things that you should consider. You should find out where do you have tax advantages, where do you have tax disadvantage, and then you should compare the return on after tax basis, not pre-tax basis. Maybe you are getting income from an asset of 10%, and maybe you are getting income from another strategy of 5%. But maybe tax on that 5, there is no tax on 5%, and maybe there is a huge tax on 10% return. So you need to find out after tax returns. Dividend income may also have provisions, and if there are no other provisions or there are no special provisions, then generally interest income is treated as ordinary income. So whatever the tax rate is on ordinary income, that will be applicable on interest income if there are no special provisions. Dividend income may also have provision. It can have exemptions, it can have a special tax rate, it can have exclusions for tax purposes. Again, if there is no special treatment to dividend income, then it will be treated as ordinary rate. So again, when analyzing, you should find out what are the dividend tax laws in place, how will it be taxed, and all that, what are the tax benefits that you can get. Capital gains losses may have special provisions audit, that is, long-term tax gains might have a lower rate compared to short-term gains. Total exemption of capital gains or long-term, there might be total exemption of capital gains or long-term capital gains from taxation. Maybe there is a law that if you have held the asset for more than 5 years, you will not need to pay any tax. So you need to consider those as well. Moving on, here is an example. Vanessa Wong is a new client living in a jurisdiction with a progressive tax rate. So there is a progressive tax rate structure. She expects to have taxable ordinary income of 70,000. Tax structure is given as follows. Wong's marginal tax rate is closest to, so there are two different types of tax rates, marginal and average. What is the marginal tax rate? Marginal tax rate is this tax rate that is applicable on that level of investment, on that level of income. And average tax rate is the actual tax that you are paying divided by your total income. That is the average rate on your income. So Wong's marginal tax rate is closest to, so she has 70,000 euros of income. So she does not fall here. This is up to 30,000. Does not fall here. This is up to 60,000. But she falls here. This is up to 90,000. So 70 is between 60 and 90. So that means her marginal tax rate is 40%. She will fall in 40% tax bracket. But will she be paying 40% on 90,000, 40% on 70,000? No, because this is not a flat structure. This is a progressive structure. So what will she be paying? Her tax liability will be 20% of 30,000 plus 30% of difference. That is again 30,000. 60 minus 30. So 30% into 30 again. Plus 40% of difference between 60 and 70. Income is 70, additional income from 60 is 10, so that is 40%. So 40% of 10. And this will give you total tax when you divide it by the income, that is 70,000. It will give you the answer. Moving on, with respect to tax regime, there can be some general types of tax regime. These are very important to know. So you should know the regime and you should know the characteristics of that regime. So if I tell you there is a flat and heavy regime, you should know what does it mean. How will the interest rate income be taxed? How will ordinary income be taxed? How will dividend be taxed? How will capital gains be taxed? And all that. And if I tell you you have flat and light regime, you should be able to find out, you should know that how will interest tax, how is dividend tax, how is all these incomes taxed. So you should know all the names of these regimes and you should know all the characteristics of these regimes. And if you know the name, then characteristic will be easier to know because it is very much related to name. So first is common progressive. So you have progressive in the name, that means there is a progressive structure. So on ordinary income, there is a progressive structure. With respect to interest income, some interest taxed at favorable rate or exempt. So interest will generally be favorable or exempt compared to ordinary income. Dividend, some dividend taxed at favorable rate or exempt. Otherwise, if not this, then they will be taxed at ordinary rate. And if not this special treatment, then they will be taxed at ordinary rate. Capital gains, again some capital gains taxed favorably or exempt. So this is very much simple. Next comes heavy dividend tax. So again, heavy dividend tax have progressive structure, and as they say heavy dividend, that means, so one thing to know is that no matter what the regime is, ordinary tax structure will be progressive unless the regime mentions flat in its name. So only for flat and light and flat and heavy regimes, tax structure will be flat. Otherwise, it will be progressive for all. One key point to note. So you, from the name, you can find out whether ordinary tax rate structure is progressive or flat. Second thing is to find out interest income. So commonly it can, some may have favorable or exempt. Dividends again, some may have favorable or exempt. This is the normal case. Capital again, some may have favorable or exempt. This is normal case. That is common progressive. Now comes, within progressive comes heavy dividend tax. Heavy dividend tax means that there will be higher tax on dividend. That means, in other words, it means that dividends will not have favorable or tax exemption status. So again, progressive, some may have favorable or exempt interest income tax. For dividend, no favorable or treatment or exemption, taxed at ordinary rate. Capital gains again may have favorable or exemption. Now comes heavy capital gains tax. This means for others treatment will remain be the same, but for capital gains tax treatment will be different. That is no favorable or exempted treatment from on capital gains tax. They will be treated at ordinary tax. So capital gains tax treated at ordinary rates, taxed at ordinary rates. Then comes heavy interest tax. So heavy interest tax again progress as we discussed. Now treatment for all others will remain be the same, but treatment for interest income will be different. That is no favorable or exemption, no favorable treatment or exemption for interest income. They will be taxed at ordinary rates. Then comes light capital gains tax. That in light capital gains, when we have moved from this to this, from heavy parts, that is heavy dividend, heavy capital, heavy interest, to light ones, then remember that treatment across categories can change. So when we say light capital gains tax, this means that capital gains tax will have some some favorable treatment or exemption. This means other two will be heavy. So instead of saying heavy interest tax and heavy dividend tax regime, I can say light capital gains tax regime. So this is light, this is ordinary rate, that is higher than capital gains tax. Then we move on to flat and light. Flat, ordinary tax rate is flat. Light, all others are light, that is favorable or exempt. Then we move on to flat and heavy. Flat, ordinary is flat. Interest income, favorable or exempted. Other two are heavy. So for this you will need to remember it. You cannot, there is nothing obvious on the name that interest income will not be heavy, but you need to memorize it. So you should know the regime and you should know the characteristics. Other considerations are with respect to taxes are tax deferred account that we have discussed earlier as well. There can be certain accounts that you can use, savings account that you can use to defer taxes. That is tax deferred account. It defers taxation on investment returns within the account, may permit a deduction for contributions, may occasionally permit tax-free distributions. Wealth tax on accumulations on periodic basis, which reduces after-tax returns. So this also we discussed and we did an example as well. We saw a periodic tax in previous reading, and we saw a cumulative tax. And there we saw that periodic tax was giving you a lower value compared to cumulative tax. Why? Because in cumulative tax you are delaying the tax, that is deferring the tax. Moving on, next section is after tax accumulations and returns for taxable accounts. This is an important section because you will see questions based on the calculations from this section. There are two ways to do it. One is that there are many formulas, so you memorize all the formulas. That is one way of doing it. Other is that instead of memorizing formulas, you remember the logics or concepts, and based on that you do your own calculation instead of remembering or memorizing the formula. So starting with simple tax environments. First is returns based taxes, that is accrual taxes on interest and income. So if there is a return based tax, that is you are taxed on your return or on your income. So how will you calculate future value of your wealth? Future value of your wealth, if I say there are no taxes, if you are getting return and you are accumulating wealth, there are no taxes. What will be the future value? Future value will be 1 plus r to the power of n. That's how we calculate future value. If I say that you do not get this return, you will get a tax will be applied on this return and your return will be after tax return. So your future value will be 1 plus r into 1 minus t to the power n. Simple, this is the simplest model, but it can get complex going forward. Next is returns based taxes on deferred capital gains. That is you are having a tax on capital gain, but you are deferring that gain. That is tax will be applied to some later period or in future. So simplistically speaking, how will you calculate it? What you will do is that you will calculate total future value assuming that there are no taxes. If you assume there are no taxes, then you will get future value will be 1 plus r to the power n. Next thing that you will do is you will apply tax rate on it, that is 1 minus t to the power 1 minus capital gains tax. So when I apply this, I will get after tax value of the future value. But there is a catch here. The catch is that tax should be applied on return. Throughout the life, tax will be applied on return. And here I am assuming that this tax is being applied on the overall future value that I have accumulated. That means I am overcharging the tax. So for that I make an adjustment and I add tax capital gains tax separately. This gives me the future value. So this is the formula for calculating future value if you are deferring capital gains taxes. If you are not paying as of today but you are deferring it, then this is the formula. Another formula can be this one, that is you calculate future value. This is your 1 plus r to the power n. This is simplistic conceptual formula. In this case, you do not need to memorize formula, but you can do it conceptually, and that I think is better. So what you do is you calculate future value. Your future value is 1 plus r to the power n without tax. Now you will subtract tax from it. What is the tax? Tax is the future value minus present value multiplied by capital gains tax rate. Capital gains tax rate is applied on the profit that you are making or the gain that you are making. What is the gain? Gain is the value as of today, that is 1 plus r to the power n minus value at start at which you bought it minus 1. This is your gain, and gain multiplied by capital gains tax. Do this and you get your after tax return. Answer will be same from both the formula. So this is more, I think, easier to recall doing conceptually than memorizing the formula. Otherwise, depends on you, whatever you find easier. In cost basis, what we do is that we decide. So here we took the cost as 1. In cost basis, what we do is that there is a cost basis provided, that this certain cost should be used to calculate capital gains tax. That there is a certain cost that you should be used to calculate capital gains tax. So you will subtract your this cost, that is cost basis, from market value to arrive at capital gains tax. So when you are given cost basis, what you first need to do is calculate B. What is B? This is cost basis as a percentage of market value. So your cost, if let's say your B is 70%, that means cost as a percentage of your market value is 70%. How much is the gain? Gain is 30% of market value. If I tell you that your cost is $70 and your total market value is $100, then what is your gain? Gain is $30. Clear? So this 30% is your cost. This 30% is your gain percentage, and this 70% is your cost basis, also known as B. That means simplistically speaking, if I do 1 minus B, what will I get? I will get gain percentage, right? So 1 minus B is gain percentage. So how will I calculate future value? So simplistically, I will take future value of investment through this deferred capital tax regime structure, and that will give me this value. Assuming that there are no cost basis, assuming that I am doing it normally for deferred capital gains tax structure, my future value will be this much. I can calculate it using either of the ways that we have discussed. Now second thing is I am given cost basis, so I need to adjust for cost basis. So how do I adjust for cost basis? I do minus 1 minus B. What is 1 minus B? 1 minus B is my gain percentage, and I multiply gain percentage with capital gains tax. So I subtract an additional tax that is due to this cost basis from my future value. This is known as this is another way of calculating future value if you are given cost basis. So as you see, this is getting complex and complex. As we move ahead, there is another simple one, that is wealth-based tax. What is wealth-based tax? Wealth-based tax is not applied on return. It is the tax on overall wealth. So that means I won't be multiplying return by 1 minus t, but instead I will be applying total value by 1 minus t. So it will be 1 plus r multiplied by 1 minus t. This is my after tax wealth as of today, to the power n. To the power n. So this is how we do it. 1 plus r into 1 minus tax on wealth to the power n. So as long as you know it conceptually, you should be able to. Yeah, we are adjusting it for every year. So because if you have a property tax, you will be paying your property tax every year. Blended taxing environment. So what is blended taxing environment? Blended. So far we have discussed simplistic cases. Now there can be an environment in which interest is being charged at different rate, dividend at different, and capital gains tax at different. So in that case, your realized tax will be different from these taxes. Why? Because there is a different tax rate for every component of income. So that means your effective tax rate will be different from these, or will be somewhere in between highest and lowest tax rate. So how do you calculate it? You calculate it by taking the proportion of each income component in your total return. So if I say that you made an income of $100, so your income that you have made is $100. Now the sum of this income will be interest income. If I say interest is $20, sum of this is dividend. I say 50 is dividend, and sum is your capital gains. I say capital gains is $30. So their proportions will be 20%, 20 divided by 100, 50%, 50 divided by 100, and 30%, that is 30 divided by 100. So how do I calculate effective rate? The formula to calculate effective rate is R star, that is realized rate after tax, realized after return after realized taxes, is your return multiplied by 1 minus. So what is your general formula for after tax return? General formula is 1 minus tax rate, if tax rate is same. If I say tax rate is different for all components, then you need to multiply this tax rate with the proportion to calculate weighted average tax rate. So instead of doing 1 minus t, you will do 1 minus weighted average tax rate. And how do you calculate weighted average tax rate? You multiply each proportion with its tax rate. So 20% into tax rate of interest, 50% into tax rate of dividend, and 30% into tax rate of capital gains tax. So what is your formula? Your formula becomes 1 minus proportion of interest tax into tax of on interest, proportion of dividend income into tax on dividend, proportion of capital gains into tax on capital gain. When you subtract this, you will get your R star, that is realized rate. Any confusion so far? So if your tax rate is different, your effective interest will be, your after tax interest, your after tax return will be affected. And also similarly, as I have calculated after tax return, I can also calculate an effective tax, effective capital gains tax. What is the effective capital gains tax rate? It can be calculated using this formula, that is tax on capital gains multiplied by 1 minus proportion of income, proportion of dividend, and proportion of capital gains. So what will we, if I do 1 minus proportion of income, proportion of dividend, and proportion of CG, then what will I be left with? I will be left with unrealized gains. So remember another thing, that this CG is realized capital gain. There is also a component of unrealized capital gain. So if I made a capital gain of, if I, let's say I had 10 shares of $100 each, that means I had $1,000. And next year it increased 10%, so now I have $1,100. From this $1,100, so my total return is $100 on 10 shares. If I sell 5 of these shares, my realized, or 6 of these shares, my realized return will be $60. And if I hold back 40 shares, then my unrealized return is $40. So here we have, so far from the CG, we are only talking about realized gain. We have not accounted for unrealized gain, while there is also a component for unrealized gain. So if I subtract all the realized gains from 1, I will get portion of unrealized gain. If I multiply that portion of unrealized gain by capital gains tax and divide it by 1 minus all these weighted average proportions of taxes, I will get tax T star, that is called effective capital gains tax rate. And it will become clear as we do example later. And based on this R star and T star, I can then easily calculate future value of investment factor. How do I calculate future value? So simplistically speaking, the formula that we discussed earlier was, this one. 1 plus r to the power n into 1 minus tg plus tcg minus 1 minus b into tcg. And we discussed that instead of using this part, you can use this formula, and then you can subtract 1 minus b to the power taxes capital gain. Now if I know t star, if I know r star, I can apply this t star and r star here, and I can calculate future value of investment factor easily. Only formula is the same, only difference is instead of using r, I am using r star, that is effective rate. Instead of using t, I am using t star, that is effective rate. So this is how we do it. If you know this formula, you should know this formula as well. Only r is being replaced by r star and t being replaced by t star. Any confusion so far in this? Moving on, here is an example. So they have asked you what is the return after realized taxes. So you have some income types, you have some income amounts, you have some tax rate, and you have some tax due. What is the return after realized taxes? So beginning, you know beginning value, you know ending value, you know gain, that is 8,000, you know unrealized gain, that is 2,000. This is your 2,000 plus 3,600 becomes 5,600, 5,600 and 400 becomes 6,000. So that means 6,000 is your realized return, and remaining 2,000 would be your unrealized return. If your total, if I tell you total return is 8,000, then remaining 2,000 will be unrealized return. What is the return after realized taxes? Means what is the R star? What is the effective return after realized taxes? So one way is that you use this formula, simplistically speaking. That is, you calculate after tax return, and the tax rate that you take is weighted average rate. So how do you do this? 1 minus R into 1 minus tax. So what is the tax rate? Tax rate is 35%. What is the proportion of this tax rate? 400 divided by 8,000. 400 divided by 8,000 multiplied by 35%. Plus 2,000 divided by 8,000 multiplied by 15%. Plus 3,600 divided by 8,000 multiplied by 15. When you do this, you can calculate R star easily. I have here done it from a different method just to explain you. So if I do not use that method, what can I do? I can separately calculate taxes. So what is the total tax? My total tax is 400 into 0.35, 2000 into 0.15 and 3600 into 0.15. This is my total tax, $1,980. What is my ending value? I know I have made 8,000 of gain. So my ending value is 108,000. What is my ending value after tax? So my tax is 980. If I subtract from 108,000, I will get 107,200. What is my after tax gain? My after tax gain is 7020. Remember one thing, we are talking about total return. So total return was 108,000, and I have not only realized, I am talking about total return 108, and I have subtracted this tax, so I got 107,020. And after tax gain is 7020. What is after tax return? After tax return will be simply be my gain, after tax gain divided by my investment or beginning value. That gives me 7.02%. If you use that formula is used in curriculum, that will also give you the same answer. This is just to explain the logic. A key point that I want to mention here is, just to clarify your concept, is that what is R star? We know R star is the after tax return, after tax total return. So from returns perspective, I am taking total return. That means I am also taking unrealized return, right? But from tax perspective, I am only taking taxes. I have only captured taxes in it. This is after tax. R star is after tax, right? After tax total return. But so total return I have taken unrealized returns as well. But with respect to taxes, I have only incorporated here the realized taxes. I have ignored unrealized tax. There will be an unrealized tax as well. So I haven't sold my asset as of now, but when I sell it, I will have to pay a tax. So that means there is an unrealized tax that I have incurred or I have deferred. I haven't accounted for that here, right? So that's why we calculate T star. So when this R star has already accounted for realized taxes. Now I need unrealized, I need tax on unrealized gains to account for that deferred tax as well. That's why we calculate TR, and then we we jointly use R star and T star to come out with future value of investment factor. So that means till R star I captured all the return and I captured realized taxes. But then there was one thing that was missing, that was tax that is to be paid at the end, that is being deferred, and that is captured in T star. When I combine these two, then I get total future value. After that's why we use T star here, and that's why we use R star here. So any confusion in this so far? And here is again an example. What is the expected after tax accumulation in 5 years? So now you are required to calculate future value. So how do you calculate future value? First thing is to find out R star. How do you find out R star? Your R star is 7.02%, right? Second thing is to find out T star. How do you find out T star? You can either use this formula, right? That is, you calculate percentage of unrealized return or the proportion of unrealized return. You multiply this percentage by capital gains tax rate and you divide it by 1 minus all the proportion, all the weighted average tax rate, weighted average realized tax rate. One way is to do it using this formula, and another way is just again do it mathematically. How do you do this? If you know the logic, you first calculate unrealized gain. What is unrealized gain? Unrealized gain is the remaining gain after accounting for realized gains. So if I remove dividend, if I remove my total return is 8,000. From this 8,000, or if I write it in against $1, then against $1 it will be 0.08. 8,000 on 1 lakh and 0.08 on $1. So that means my total return is 0.08, and in this 0.08 with this calculation in which we found out that unrealized is 2,000. That means if I am taking it at 0.08, I will take this at 0.02, or you can take it as 8,000 and 2,000. So this is my unrealized gain. Next step is that I calculate deferred CG tax, that is tax on unrealized gains. So what is the tax rate on capital gains? Tax rate on capital gains is 15%. So what will be my tax on unrealized gain? Tax on unrealized gain will be 15% into 2,000, and 15% into 2,000 will give me 3,000, right? So that means my tax on unrealized gain is 3,000. There is a tax of 3,000 on this gain, but I am not paying it, I am deferring it. So that means what is my tax rate on this item? My tax rate will be this 3,000 deferred capital gains tax divided by my after tax return. My after tax return is 7.02%, or if I write it in absolute amount, it will be 7.02% of 1 lakh, and it will be 7020. So this is my return that I am making. On this return, my deferred capital gains tax is 3,000. So that means, so this will I think be, so work it out, either this will be I think 70,200, or this will be something. This won't be 3,000, this will be 300, something like that. So when you divide deferred capital, this is 0.003, so it will be 3, not 3,000. So it will be I think 30 or 300, something like that. There is some problem with decimal. So this is your, effectively speaking, this is your deferred capital gains tax, and this is your return. So if you divide capital gains tax with the return, it will give you the percentage, this percentage, and this percentage is known as T star. So T star is effectively your capital gains tax rate on unrealized gains, absolute amount, divided by absolute amount of your R star, that is return after realized taxes. You divide it, you get T star. Now you can use T star and R star both to calculate your future accumulated value using the same formula that we discussed earlier. So any confusion so far in this concept? All clear? So moving on, next is accrual equivalent returns and tax rate. What is accrual equivalent return? It is a tax-free return which is accrued annually, produces same after-tax accumulation as the taxable portfolio. So if I tell you that you have $100 today and after-tax value, future value after tax that you have accumulated is $130, and if I ask you what is the return, after-tax return that you have made, that is your known as annual equivalent return. So what will you do? You will find out future value after all taxes. You will divide it by present value, take power to the n, and the compound rate on that future value to come up to that future value will be known as your accrual equivalent return. So how will you do it? Using formula. Simply, what is the formula for future value? Simple formula from level 1, PV into 1 plus R to the power n. If I tell you your future value after all the taxes that you have accumulated is something FV. So if I rearrange the formula to find R, it will be PV, FV divided by PV, and it will then be FV divided by PV to the power 1 divided by n minus 1. This will give me R. So this equation can be rearranged to this equation, that is FV divided by PV to the power 1 divided by n minus 1 equals to R. Any confusion so far in this? So this is your return that you have made. So how will you calculate accrual equivalent return? You will use the same formula. Only thing is that in future value you will use after tax future value that you have accumulated. So if I use the same example, in this example I calculated and I accumulated a value of 138,660. So using that future value, my accrual equivalent return is 138,662 divided by 100,000. My investment was for 5 years, so to the power 1 upon 5 minus 1 equals 6.756%. So what does it mean? It means that I have made an annual after tax effective return of 6.756. While there are different types of taxes that I have incurred on my income, the final return that I have made after all taxes is at an compound annual rate of 6.756%, and this is accrual equivalent return. Similarly, I can also have an accrual equivalent tax rate, that is, instead of having so many tax rates, what is my effective tax rate that is being applied? Simplified tax rate in whole situation. So what is it? The accrual equivalent tax rate is equals to 1 minus accrual equivalent return divided by total return. So my total return was 8,000, or you in decimal terms it was 0.08, 8% or 0.08. And from this return, how much is my realized after tax return, that is accrual equivalent return? This is 0.06756 over the line. So I divided, I subtracted from 1, and I get my answer for tax rate. And again, this is not a new formula, this is the same formula. What we used to have is that return after tax is equals to 1 plus R into 1 minus T. So if I rearrange for T, I will get this equation, that is T equals 1 minus R A divided by R. So while there are many formulas, effectively or essentially there are no new formulas. So these are, if you take it these formulas and start memorizing them, you can do it. That is one logic, but that would take time and that can confuse you. Instead, if you learn the concept, this is all math. This is no formula, this is all math. If you know the concept, you can do your math. and you can find out the future value or present value. So you can do it the way that suits you. So you can either memorize these formulas or you can do it conceptually, whatever helps you remember it. The idea is that you should be able to find out future value and tax rate and returns, and you should be able to differentiate between different types of returns and tax rate. Moving on, types of investment accounts. What are the three types of investment accounts? There are taxable accounts, there are tax deferred accounts, and there are tax exempt accounts. You should know properties of all. Taxable accounts, simple accounts in which any contribution is, so when I talk about account, I will be making some contribution to that account, I will be putting in some money, and then that account will be giving me some return. So in taxable account, contributions are taxed and returns are also taxed. In tax deferred accounts, contribution may be tax deductible, maybe contributions are not taxed. Returns are taxed, but tax on returns is deferred. That is, it is accumulated and the cumulative tax is then paid towards the end. So returns will be taxed but deferred. In tax exempt account, contributions may be taxable. Earnings accumulate free of taxation even as funds are returned, but these returns will not be taxed. So in deferred tax, returns, tax on returns will be deferred. Tax exempt accounts, return, there is no tax on return. Taxable account, there is simple periodic tax on return. So remember this and you should be able to differentiate. And obviously based on the type, you can calculate future value. How? If it is a tax deferred account, if it is a simple taxable account, then you will use the same formula that we have been using. That each year you are paying some tax. That is your after tax return will be 1 plus r into 1 minus t, and you can calculate future value by taking it to the power of n. This is simple taxable account. In tax deferred account, your return is your tax is being deferred. So what will you, your total future value would be 1 plus r to the power n into 1 minus tn. And in future, in tax exempt account, there is no tax. So there is no tax being used here. It is just 1 plus r to the power of n. So as long as you know the definition, you should be able to do this. Again, new formulas, but again, nothing new in it. This is just different. These are just different concepts. If you know the concept, you should be able to do the math instead of memorizing formula. Taxes and investment risk. Because returns on assets held in tax deferred accounts and tax exempt accounts are not currently taxed, investors bear the risk associated with returns in these accounts. What does it mean? So there can be certain risk associated with returns in these accounts. The risk is that if you are keeping, if you are not being taxed today, maybe in future taxes change. So if tax rates change in future, then you may have to incur a higher tax, or maybe lower a benefit as well, but maybe higher as well. So that is the risk that you face in these accounts. And last topic is implications for wealth management. So for wealth management, what do you need? What factors do you need to look at or manage? It includes asset location, trading behavior, tax loss harvesting, and holding period management. What is asset location? Asset location refers to your location of your asset, that where is the asset being placed? Is it in TDA? Is it in tax exempt account, or where? So investors would place in TDAs and tax exempt accounts those securities that would otherwise be heavily taxed if held in taxable account. So only if your benefit outweighs the risk that you are taking, you will be putting it in. Otherwise, you won't be putting it in. If there is only a small difference and the risk that you are taking is higher, you won't put it in. Taxable account would hold lightly taxed assets. So in taxable account, you will be putting those assets that are lightly taxed, that do not have much tax on them. Investors may face restrictions on the amount and form of borrowing. Investors may face liquidity constraints. Maybe there is some limitation on withdrawing funds. Maybe there is a charge or penalty on withdrawing funds. Maybe withdrawal tax is high. Some jurisdictions exempt municipal bond interest or other types of interest from taxes. So this is key point to remember. When you are analyzing an investor needs placing the asset, one point that you can make is that if taxation is a problem in that case, you can say that assets can be placed into municipal bond, because municipal bonds are low risk, so you are covered from low risk point of view if investor has very low risk tolerance. And secondly, if investor has huge tax implications, then that tax can be saved, because mostly municipal bonds will be tax exempt. Moving on, another implication for wealth management is trading behavior. So if there is a trader who is doing excessive trading, that is focusing on short-term gains, then in longer run he may end up reducing the value of the portfolio. Why? Because it can erode possible tax efficiencies. Maybe long-term taxes are lower, and in short-term trading, by booking gains again and again, small returns, you will be paying higher tax in short term. Active investor gains are longer term, and gains are so again same point, that gains in longer term can be higher if your focus is on longer term. If you are an active investor, you may forego the longer term tax benefits for short term reserves. Passive behavior, passively buying and selling stocks. So if you are passively buying and selling stock, this can be beneficial in the case where the transaction costs are high. So you can save huge transaction cost. But if transaction costs are low, if tax efficiencies are low, if tax differences between short term and long term are not very different, or if if there are no significant tax benefits in short term with respect to holding the securities long term, then maybe passive behavior is not advisable. In that case, maybe you can book gains earlier. So it would depend or vary from example to scenario to scenario. Exempt investor, the exempt investor not only buys and holds stocks, but he never pays capital gains tax. So exempt investor is the one who has been exempted from capital gains tax. So with respect to investor type, you should be able to find out that what can be the implications on wealth management with respect to taxation and other behaviors. Tax loss harvesting we have already discussed, that is booking a loss to offset taxable gain to reduce the overall tax liability. Holding period management, short-term trading can be difficult to justify on an after-tax basis. So if you are holding a stock for only very short term, you may end up making a high return, but if you compare it to longer term return, maybe your after tax return is lower. So for example, you have bought and sold stock, let's say 10 times, and each time you made a return of 2%. So your total return for 10 trades would be 20%. And on each of these trades, maybe you have been charged the tax of, let's say, 20%. Let's say short-term tax rate is 20%, so you are charged tax of 20%. So your after-tax return would be 16%. Sorry, 20%. Yeah, so after-tax return would be 16%. On the other hand, if you had held this, so let's say we are talking about 1 year. If you had held the stock for 1 year, maybe it didn't give you 20% return, but maybe it gave you 9% return. But maybe the longer term holding, the tax rate was 10%. So in that case, your return is lower compared to what you have made by short-term trade, but your after-tax return is higher. That is 19% minus 1.9 would be somewhere around 17.1%. So that means keeping short-term focus or holding the assets for very short-term only can give you higher returns in short-term, but on after-tax basis, those returns might be lower. So you need to analyze after-tax returns for holding period management.